It's a go.
I'll call the Retirement Board of the Employees Retirement System of Wednesday, August 26, 2020 to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Lombardi,
Present.
Vice Chairman Hull,
Present.
Councilman Igliozzi is absent. Ms. Silveria,
Present.
Mr. Cali,
Present.
Ms. Chase Lovett,
Present.
Mr. Colanino is absent. Mr. D'Amico is absent. Ms. Jackson
Present.
is absent. Mr. LaRopa,
Present.
Mr. Richards,
Present.
Mr. Shepherd.
Present.
Chairman, you have 9 present and 4 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And thank you all for attending today. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes. There is none. The second item on the agenda is the Retirement Board Disability Committee report. Mr. Richards, you want to comment?
We have no report as we had to continue Miss Nim Fallon's case because she was in the hospital. So her representative, Ron Coya, had continued.
So is that a motion to continue, Mr. Richards?
Yes, so we have a motion to continue, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded?
Chairman Hull, second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Invoice for payment, there are none. Loans against the member retirement contributions.
Mr. Chairman, skip
Yes.
purchase of service.
Skip one. Skip
Number
one.
4.
So it's not on my agenda. I must have printed it. I must have skipped that. So sorry. So I don't have that on my agenda, but Madam Clerk, it's the purchase of service.
There is none.
There is none.
Purchase of service, there is none.
Okay. And then the next is loans against member retirement contributions. Okay, thank you. This is, does anybody have any questions on this? This is something that's calculated by the city controller, and we accept his report unless there's any questions. So I'll entertain a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
So moved. I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. You have that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, service retirements.
Item number 6, service retirements. A, maximum, Robert Tisaglia. B, option 1, there is none. C, option 2, there is none. D, option 3, Joseph C. DeRosa. D, option 4, there are none.
Again, this is prepared by the city controller. Does anybody have any questions on these matters? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept as presented.
I so
Motion
moved.
by
Betty.
Carl Richards.
Is there a second?
I second Betty Jackson.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Oh, you know what happened on this? I'm supposed to be printing this off on 8x14.
Correct.
Just realized that. Okay, so
You must be an attorney. Sorry.
so new and continued business. I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's one of the cases. Mr. Cheverini, is there anything that report?
The first item, as I understand it, would be the Steinito matter, which is pending before the Rhode Island Supreme Court. As I mentioned previously, Mr. Chair, we had a mediation and a conference with the Judge Indelia, and there was no ability to resolve it. The court then said that they would set it down for oral argument, and that was prior to everything being shut down to COVID-19. We have not received a date regarding the hearing. I'm assuming we'll receive something for the fall, and I will advise the board accordingly and provide the date in case any of the members want to see it if it's in person or if it's via Zoom, I will provide that information. So nothing new to report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the solicitor?
Solicitor Carl Richards, from Providence Fire, active rep. Yet when that does go to oral arguments, I'd like to attend.
Absolutely. If it's via Zoom, I'll give you the information to log on. If it's actually a date where we're going to actually argue in court, I'll provide the date and the time.
Okay,
To the
great.
whole
Thank
board.
you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Any further questions on this matter? I'll entertain a motion to continue this matter to the next scheduled meeting.
So moved, Carl Richards.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded.
O'Reilly.
Any further question? All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the last item on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
That's item number B. The board may meet in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42464 and 42465A2 to discuss the recent opinion of the Rhode Island Supreme Court, Manuel Andrews Jr. et al. v. James Lombardi, numbers 17-262, 263, 264, and 269.
Mr. Solicitor?
Mr. Chair, I'll give a little bit of a background. This decision came out June 30th of this year. This, and there's 3 decisions. I will focus on the COLA decision. There's a separate decision which I'll allude to on Medicare, and the other one is essentially another COLA decision for a 2 or 3. So back in 2011, Mayor Taveras assumes the mayorship, takes office, and determines there's a Category 5 hurricane based on his term, serious financial crisis. The city then proceeded to recommend a number of pension changes. One would be the suspension of the COLAs across the board. So anybody who was receiving a 6% all the way down to a 3, the COLAs would be suspended. In 2012, an ordinance was passed and enacted that suspended COLAs until the pension system was 70% funded. Shortly thereafter, the administration entered into negotiations with the various retirees and the active police, fire, and local 1033. A resolution was reached whereby the COLA was then frozen for 10 years. So the COLA will come back for the individuals who accepted the settlement. So 2023, January, the COLAs will come back. They'll be 3% compounded going forward. An offshoot of the COLA was Medicare litigation. And the Medicare litigation essentially was the city passed an ordinance. And previously, whatever contract you retired under, you received that benefit for the rest of your life. So Blue Cross for life, or and that would be family coverage or individual with spouse. The city passed an ordinance that said when you turn Medicare age eligible, 65, the city would transition you to Medicare as the primary health insurance. So when you went to the doctor, you would give the doctor your Medicare card, and then there would be a supplemental care. So Medicare would pick up 80% of your coverage, and then the wraparound or the supplement would pick up the rest. through negotiations, the city entered into with the same retirees and the unions that the city would pay for that wraparound plan. So the individuals who retired would no longer receive the Blue Cross set forth in the contract for life. They would receive, they'd have to register for Medicare, and then the city would provide a Plan 65 wraparound with a drug component. And a number of individuals, some 68, 69, appealed the COLA decision and appealed I'm sorry, they didn't appeal it. They challenged the city's ability to suspend the COLA and no longer provide health care for life, the Blue Cross. So the case makes its way to Judge Taft Carter, who rules in favor of the city and essentially said, due to the financial situation, the city could break the contract and suspend the COLAs and change the health benefit for the retirees. The opt-outs, as we're going to call, those are the individuals who challenged. The case went to the Supreme Court. Relative to the Medicare litigation, the court ruled that, well, the city was okay in doing what they did in suspending the COLA, but you didn't offer them anything. Offer them what you offered the folks who took the settlement. So anybody who now retires and who was part of that opt-out group would get they'd have to register for Medicare, and then the city would provide the supplemental plan at the city cost. So that was one component. The other case dealt with the COLAs, and the court determined there were different groups who retired under various different either agreements or consent judgments. There was a 1991 that is the famous one where the individual had 65% compounded COLAs, where the court essentially agreed that what it was a 6% or 5% compounded COLA. There was also agreements or settlements entered into with various retirees that set forth a number for the COLA, as well as 2 court decisions that ruled in favor of the retirees pursuant to their litigation, which both cases went to the Supreme Court, and the court made a final determination as to what their COLA benefit would be. So those individuals who fall in that group are approximately 40, 39, and the court determined that once there was a valid court decision, a settlement, or a consent judgment, which is an agreement ratified by the court, you can't modify the benefit by passing an ordinance to suspend the COLA. So those individuals, those 39 or 40, are entitled to the COLA as well as what they were receiving. So the court said the city had no basis to suspend the COLA and nullify the ordinance for those folks. The remaining 29 who didn't retire under a consent judgment, a settlement, or a court decision, the court remanded it to the lower court and said, determine what's reasonable. So that case, those 29 individuals, at some point, unless the parties agree, they will have to go before the lower court, and it would be Judge Taft Carter who originally ruled in the case as to what's reasonable. Now, I would venture to guess, and this is just my own speculation, probably something close to what the other retirees got. The court said a 70%, waiting till the system is 70% funded is unreasonable. So it'd have to be something less than that. The 10-year freeze, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the court determined that would seem to be okay, but we don't know for sure because we will wait and see what the lower court does. But I would imagine, to be consistent, it would be something along those lines. So the city has to pay the arrears for the 39 or something folks, as well as on a going forward basis, pay them what the COLA that they received or were receiving when the benefit was suspended in 2012. And that seems to be the the basis or a summary of the decisions, Mr. Chair.
Sorry. Do you have readily available any financial information at this point?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And just another point, the court did not mention what, if there was any interest. It was silent. I'm sure the retirees will argue that they're entitled to interest. And I'm sure the city will argue that there is no interest because it wasn't noted. So that would be another issue the lower court would have to decide unless parties come to some agreement prior to that.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the solicitor?
One question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Vice Chairman Hull.
The cost will be incurred from the pension fund or the city fund, or are they both the same?
My understanding is it will come directly out of the pension fund because those, and I'm not talking the Medicare portion, I'm talking strictly the COLA, because that money would have been coming out anyway, which comes out
Yeah.
typically when the COLA was normally paid prior to the suspension. So my best bet would be it would continue to come out from the retirement fund.
Okay, thank you.
A question from Carl Richards, please.
Sure. Richards?
Who bears the burden of the legal expenses? Does that come out of the pension or does that come out of the city's funds?
When you say legal expenses, are you, and just so as point of clarification, Carl, our office didn't argue the case. We utilized an outside attorney. So if you're talking about our legal costs, there is a fund, and I believe it didn't come out of the pension fund. It came out of the law department's budget. So for that, there was no ruling on attorney fees for the opt-outs or opposing counsel.
Okay, and also to follow up on that, at our next meeting, I'm assuming that this issue would be continued, and if so, at our next meeting, can you have some financial records as to what the impact will be, on this decision?
I don't know if I can give you a concrete number, and I'll tell you why. Just because there's a gray area, I'm assuming I have to talk to the finance folks, but the 29, we couldn't come up with a determination as of yet in the interest component because we're waiting to see what the court determines to be reasonable. Surely we know what the COLAs are for the other 39 and what the arrears are, but the court's got to determine on the 29 what's reasonable and then on the interest component.
Okay. Yeah,
But-
and even if you have approximate numbers, I'd be interested that,
So, Mr. Solicitor, I mean, I know that the finance director is on the Zoom call, but I would assume that somebody must have calculated minimums and maximums, or at least I hope someone did it, in regards to, okay, here's our possible exposure, here's our minimum, this is what we know, is the number, this is what we could possibly owe if XYZ goes against us. I mean, I would hope that someone has done that calculation.
I don't know if Sarah's done it or Larry. Well, I can reach out to Larry, or Sarah and I can speak afterwards, or if she wants to address that now. I don't know. I know that we know the number for the individuals, the 39, and we know what the COLA would be going forward. So I think we could figure out that calculation. As far as the other one, it would be pure speculation.
Mr. Solicitor, Betty Jackson,
Hey, Betty.
is there any way possible that the board members could receive some kind of hard copy on this information from the courts and from the city?
Betty, I will make sure we circulate the three decisions sometime today. I'll talk to Jill to get it out to you,
Okay, thank you.
to all members.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was just going to ask the same thing. I wonder if, in addition to the decisions, Mr. Solicitor, I wonder if you have just like a real simple one-page sort of summary of events going back to 2013 or something like that. Your presentation was really helpful, but I think even just a quick timeline that we could refer to, or I could refer
Absolutely.
to, would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Anybody have any further questions?
No.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to continue this matter to the next scheduled meeting.
So moved, Carl Richards.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second, Rahal.
And seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any further business before this committee?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Carl Richards. What is the likelihood that we could get an in-person meeting scheduled for September and moving forward?
So, Mr. Richards, I have been working with the solicitor on this matter. And as you know, City Hall is closed, physically closed on Wednesdays. I know we might be able to do it a different day, but we can continue to look into it. Mr. Solicitor, you have any opinion on this, and not to put you on the spot?
No, my concern is that I don't know of a space that's big enough to accommodate the board, the clerk's office, myself, Ms. Reese, and typically someone from the department comes, as well as if you have a retiree applicant and legal counsel. So, and I know there were restrictions on how many people can come together. And I'm on the State Labor Relations Board, and we're going through that same conundrum as to where can we meet with the spacing, and it's just problematic. So we continue, Jim and I can continue, the chair and I can continue to figure out a place, or if the restrictions are relaxed, to have it. But realistically, I don't know if it's going to be feasible until we have until there's some better direction on what's going on with COVID.
I totally agree. It's better to be safe, better to be apart until this COVID is really, really gotten a grip.
So let me be clear, any meeting that we would have, physical meeting, anyone could call in at that point, or at least that would be my goal. So that if we had a physical meeting, some people could show, some people could do it by Zoom, as we do in the Board of Contract and Supply.
That's
Well, with
possible,
me-
like a hybrid.
Yes. Well with me.
Thank you. Any further business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Carl Richards.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second, Betty Jackson.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.